pioneers who gathered in one another's living rooms 50 years ago, not done what they did, all that we today associate with our congregation might not have come to pass. What's necessary to create the shul? It's a largeness of vision that goes beyond the individual and goes beyond the family. It's something that reaches out and is seeking to create something that in fact is greater and grander than any one of us. It's the willingness to work with people who come from very different perspectives, who may have very different perspectives, may have different opinions, may have different politics, may have different taste, and to work with them on this noble endeavor. A shul ultimately belongs to the community and reflects the community's values and commitments, not those of any one family or individual. And those values are the values of our people, of the people that we refer to as Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, the Israelites who traveled together in the wilderness as a community for 40 years, reaching the promised land eventually. Just yesterday, we read and discussed a wonderful verse from the Torah that urges us to remember the days of old, to try to understand them, and to ask your elders to tell you about them. That's how we figure out where we're going. We are here tonight, among other things, to reminisce, which is one of the ways that we learn about the past. And not only because it's enlightening and fun to do that, but because we can learn lessons that are applicable even today. For the Temple Aliyah of today has inherited qualities that date back to its founding. We have developed since then, we have grown and evolved, but our roots are strongly fixed in the soil that was developed and that was in fact worked by those pioneers who decided 50 years ago to build a community that would serve not only them, but those who would come after them. I feel privileged. I succeeded Rabbi Aliyah Schoenberg, who succeeded Rabbi Ira Korf. And I should mention, since Bruce mentioned that the very first high holiday services were conducted by Rabbi Ben Zion Gold of Harvard Hillel, that I met him 10 years after he conducted those services here, and came to know him at Harvard Hillel for a number of years thereafter, and just recently was in touch with his daughter, and I'm arranging to have a visit over to visit him. He still lives in Cambridge today, so I'm looking forward to that. But I've come to a congregation with a tradition of strong lay leadership and strong rabbinic leadership, and certainly it's been a privilege for me to work in partnership with wonderful leaders over the year, many of whom are here with us this evening. And my hope is that that partnership will continue to allow us to continue to move forward with purpose and with deliberation. Like Am Yisrael, or the people of Israel in the wilderness, we have to keep moving forward and hopefully getting closer and closer to the promised land. Mazel tov.
Thank you, Rabbi Perkins. Esther Jean Kahn and Carol Flashner, two of our founders, will now share with us some of their reflections and memories of Temple Aliyah's earlier years.
It was late spring or early summer of 1964 when Paul and I, and along with several other couples, were invited to attend a meeting at the home of Barbara and Chet Feldman to explore the possibility of establishing a second synagogue in Needham, this one to follow in the conservative tradition. The idea was greeted with great enthusiasm. All were on board. The word was spread, committees were formed, and within 3 months, our dream was realized. United Synagogue of Needham came into being. Dues were set at $90 per family, with $75 per child for Hebrew school.
We were most fortunate to have the support of fellow religious neighbors during our formative years. Both the Unitarian Church and the Presbyterian Church of Needham allowed us to use their facilities to hold both religious services well as our meetings. We welcomed the high holidays of 1964 at the Unitarian Church with a total of 60 families purchasing tickets with close to 150 people in attendance. The church often graciously rearranged its meeting schedules to accommodate our religious needs. We continue to have monthly Friday night services at the church, followed by splendid Oneg Shabbats, coordinated by our newly formed sisterhood. In fact, it was at one of these Friday night services that congratulations were extended to Ann and Harvey Bornstein and Carol and Bob Flashner on the births of their sons, Glenn and Stephen.
We did not neglect the educational needs of our children or our adults. Temple Beth Torah of West Roxbury invited us to share the staff and classroom facilities at religious services of their synagogue for our age-appropriate children. For our adults, a few of our more learned members gave Hebrew lessons once a week in the evening to interested members in different people's homes. I'm not sure whether the attendees came for the camaraderie, the learning, or for the wonderful home-baked pastries that we served after the lesson. Our social needs were met as well with Hanukkah parties, Purim carnivals, square dances, all held at the infamous Needham Village Club. We brought our own cooking pots and utensils, condiments, plates, sodas, and liquor. Of course, we always made sure there was an abundance of wine, kosher, of course. These gatherings made for lasting friendships. We were very creative in staging our infamous mystery nights. On one occasion, we engaged the Needham Police Department to flag us down on the road after we were found riding on the railroad tracks that were supposedly not in use. The police directed us to go immediately to the police station to be fingerprinted, whereupon arriving, we were greeted with cider and donuts, much to the relief of some of our overwrought participants.
And as an example of our innocence in those early years, we scheduled a children's show at which we had live animals on the bima. Needless to say, this did not go over well with our rabbi. I must add that we did have the sense to close the curtain. One of our fondest memories would have to be the reviews written and directed by the multi-talented Judy Swartz. Esther Jean was a cloud. Can you believe it? We had Rhinestone Cowboys, Bernie Cope, Joel Dunsky, Harvey Tabashnik, and Bob Flashner. We even had the Andrews sisters, Sandy Albert, Dee Dee Hadelman, and Carol Flashner. So many laughs and good times. But back to a little history and the beginning. We had all the ingredients for a full-fledged temple, but we were lacking an appropriate name and a home of our own. At one of our earliest congregational meetings, yes, we had those even then, several names were proposed, and finally Aliyah was chosen. It certainly captured the meaning of all our sentiments, literally going up.
In the spring of 1966, my husband Paul found this property at 1664 Central Avenue, and it was purchased for the sum of $80,000, consisting of 3 acres of land with a 2-story Swiss chalet-style farmhouse situated on the land. By June 28, 1966, we took occupancy. The living room became our all-purpose room, serving as our social hall and chapel, for which Roger Lippman built our first Aron Kodesh to hold our donated Torahs. Heat and air conditioning were always problematic, and Roger was our consultant to make sure we didn't freeze or roast. Bedrooms became classrooms, and one of the kitchens became the office. A den became the rabbi's office. We're now finally able to house our Hebrew school. When we heard that the temple was now providing a bus for the Hebrew school students, it brought back some very special memories. History does have a way of repeating itself. In the beginning, we too rented a bus to transport our children to the temple. But parents had to monitor the bus because of the children's absolutely outrageous behavior. So this experiment was soon abandoned. We never knew what happened to the bus driver. Yes, those children did grow up to be respected citizens in the community.
By then, Rabbi Ephraim Greenberg had been engaged as our first part-time rabbi. He was followed by Rabbi Harold Castle and then Rabbi Ira Korf. By the way, it was Rabbi Korf, along with Rabbi Slavkin of Temple Beth Shalom, who were responsible for having the Needham School Department recognize the importance of both Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, thereby closing the public schools on those days. In our early years, everyone knew everyone else. It was a small, dedicated, and enthusiastic nucleus of people. Almost everyone took on a responsibility. We learned early that at the end of services, we had to usher our worshipers out into the foyer so that we could move tables and chairs to set up the social hall for Kiddushim and Oneg Shabbat. We were proud and volatile, so on occasion, you might see a few pieces of furniture tossed about in a congregational or board meeting. Some of us remember that. Board meetings ran late into the evenings, so it was not unusual to see a few men dozing by 9 o'clock, for they had left for work at 5 in the morning. Of course, women were not represented. It was not until Rabbi Elliot Schoenberg became our rabbi that women were given the religious equality, and since then, several women have headed our lay leadership.
Temple Aliyah has been such an important part of my life. For Paul and me, the temple became the center of our religious and social life in Needham. I look back with disbelief that it is now 50 years since our founding. Many of the friends my husband and I made through Aliyah became lifelong friends. It is with great pride and affection that I can look back and say, look what we accomplished, conservative Judaism in Needham.
It has been a grand and meaningful journey for Bob and I. We loved the early years when we were all growing up with Temple Aliyah, giving so much and getting so very much back. During the next more mature years, Temple Aliyah became a respected and valued part of the Needham community. And now, Temple Aliyah is established, and we, the founders, can look back and say, job well done. We can be proud of our Temple Aliyah. Thank you.
I would now like to invite Karen Goldberg and Mark Schumann to the podium to recognize our founders by name. Karen is the daughter of founders Alan and Lois Goldberg, and Alan was also a synagogue president. Mark is the son of founders Ralph and Sylvia Schumann. If you wish, please stand when your name is read. Please hold applause until all names have been read.
Jack and Sandy Alpert,
Bernard Appel,
Morton and Ellen Aronson,
Nathaniel Baker,
Burton Barrick,
Irving Bennett,
Joseph and Amalia Bornstein,
Harvey and Ann Bornstein,
Gerald and Ardell Boradak,
Paul and Esther Jean Kahn,
David and Irene Cohen,
Melvin and Millie Cohen,
Murray and Myrna Davidson,
Carl and Miriam Davis,
Michael and Linda Dorfman,
Eva and George Epstein,
Barbara and Chester Feldman,
Robert and Carol Flashner,
Lawrence and Arlene Fruman,
Benjamin and Toby Gilfix,
Alan and Phyllis Godis,
my parents, Ellen and Lois Goldberg,
Lawrence and Ruth Goldberg,
Pascal Goldberg,
Donald and Leah Golden,
Erwin and Sylvia Golden,
Donald Goldman,
Harvey Goldstein,
Donna and Robert Gould Cohen,
Lois and Nathan Green,
Erwin and Marjorie Gruberman,
Louis and Dee Dee Hadelman,
Lawrence and Judy Joseph,
Robert and Paula Carlsberg,
Norris and Lois Carp,
Marvin and Selma Kramer,
Bernard Lazerwitz,
Jonathan and Arlene Levitt,
Leo and Rose Levitt,
Howard and Vera Lesoff,
Herbert and Vivian Levitt,
Leon and Sally Levitan,
Roger and Beverly Littman,
Glenn and Lillian Mammon,
Howard and Rochelle Mezzo,
David Miller,
Samuel Myers,
Rhoda and Irving Pinta,
Maurice and Toby Polaise,
Joseph Reisman,
Herbert and Elsie Robinson,
Morton and Barbara Rosenstein,
Stanley and Fran Ross,
Leonard and Jean Saffron,
Joseph and Linda Savinor,
Alvin and Millie Shapiro,
Harold and Donna Shapiro,
Nathan Shapiro,
my parents Ralph and Sylvia Schumann,
Sumner and Ruth Siegel,
Ronald Sivitz,
Ruth and Harry Snyder,
Harriet and Murray Stoloff,
Joseph and Helene Stone,
Herman and Judith Swartz,
Howard and Carol Trachtenberg,
Ellie and Eleanor Werman,
Henry and Maxine Werrick,
Nancy and Howard Weiner,
Arthur Wolfson.
Blessings God.